Всем привет! Today we continue working with the extended contexts for all of our cases, and we already did nominative and genitive, and today we're working with the dative case. And I think the dative case is a little bit a forgotten case. I don't know how to explain it, but for whatever reason, we usually teach it either very fast or at the very end, and I feel like students often don't get enough practice or don't even get enough kind of like understanding of the dative case. That's why I think it's very important to be going back to the context, so to videos like that where you keep reviewing which context goes with which case. And dative case, I really like it. We use it in a lot of kind of useful expressions, as you will see, and you already know even from working with the basic cases. And it also is easy because all of the feminine singular forms are the same as the prepositional form. So that is also making our life easier. Okay, let's start working with the dative case. And as I said, these are extended cases, and it's getting probably a little bit complicated if you're a true beginner. So this whole marathon really works well in terms of giving you the concept of cases. But don't worry if you are starting to kind of like get overwhelmed with my examples or just like the sheer amount of information. As I said, it's always good to go back as you progress with your learning levels and you're becoming intermediate or maybe even advanced. It's always good to go back to the basics and kind of like review them. Okay, all right, let's start.
If you like it, please click like. If it's useful, drop a line. If you love it, hit subscribe, like me, подпишись и комментарий напиши.
Okay, so here we have our chart, and today we're working with дательный падеж. Дательный падеж or dative case. And дательный goes back to the word dat, to give. And remember, whoever we give something to is the indirect object, and that's dative. But we'll work through this context and many other contexts today. And again, we're going to look at the context, we're going to look at examples in Russian, we're going to look at English translations, or here I put more info. As I said before in the intro, some of these things are becoming a little bit more complex for the beginner's level, but don't worry, just listen to me and just remember to come back to it later when you have more knowledge of Russian. Okay, so our first context, we kind of work with it when we worked with nominative, because in nominative we work with whatever we like is the subject of a sentence. And remember back then I said whoever likes something, which is the subject in English, in Russian is going to be in the dative case. So whoever likes or actually doesn't like something is going to be dative. So if we look at the English sentences, we have I like this book. My brother doesn't like horror films. My parents liked my friends. So here, I, my brother, my parents are subjects in English, but they're in bold because when you translate these sentences into Russian, they will be dative. So let's take a look at the Russian sentences. Мне нравится эта книга. Моему брату не нравятся ужастики. Моим родителям понравились мои друзья. Here I want to remind you that in Russian we have a somewhat flexible word order because we have case endings. So the very last sentence, my parents liked my friends, can be written like that. Мои друзья понравились моим родителям. Now you probably hear that I switched around мои друзья and моим родителям. So here I'm saying my friends were liked by my parents to convey the idea that my parents liked my friends. So that's why it's very important to know the cases to understand who likes whom in this sentence. Dative likes nominative. Okay. The next context is also something we kind of like covered when we covered nominative, because whatever we need is the subject of a sentence and is nominative, but whoever needs something is dative. So again, in these sentences, I need time, my brother needs money, I will need to make a call, everything that's in bold is gonna be in dative when we translate it into Russian. Мне нужно время. Моему брату нужны деньги. Мне надо будет позвонить. You probably noticed that in the last sentence I switched from нужен or нужно. So here I can say мне нужно будет позвонить with an O. I switched from надо to нужно, from нужно to надо, because these words are synonymous when it comes when we talk about verbs or actions. So I cannot have надо in the first one, мне надо время. No, it doesn't work like that. Мне нужно время. Моему брату нужны деньги. It's not моему брату надо деньги. Now, in some colloquial expressions, we can say it in some context, but it's not grammatically correct. But with actions and verbs, we can say надо instead of нужно, and it will be completely synonymous, even though надо is a little bit colloquial. Okay, and our next context is something that we've seen already in our basic video on dative, and I kind of went into a lot of detail explaining how it works, like on the mindset level, why we say whoever is so and so many years old is actually dative in Russian. So once again, in English sentences, I am 20 years old, my daughter will be 10 years old next year, he was 35, or I'm turning 20 today, whatever is in bold is gonna be in dative. So here are the sentences. Мне 20 лет. Моей дочери будет 10 лет в следующем году. Ему было 35 лет. So here, ему было 35 лет. I want to remind you, we saw it already with genitive when we had somebody doesn't have something, but we had genitive, and no subject at all. And remember I told you, when we have sentences like that where we have no subject, the verb form defaults to neutral, so like a no ending. That's why when we want to say he was 35 years old, ему is dative, 35 years is going to be genitive plural because of the numbers, so we do not have nominative at all, so the verb was defaults to the a no or neuter ending. And the next one is мне исполняется 20 лет сегодня. As I said, some of the things will be getting a little bit complicated, and that's one of those kind of like higher register level of words where I'm turning 20 today, not just like I have a birthday and I'm 20, but мне исполняется 20 лет сегодня. And again, whoever is turning so and so many years old is gonna be in dative. Then the next context is also kind of like following the same logic. Whoever is allowed or not allowed to do something. Like there is a permission given to me, to him, to my brother, and so on. And here I want to show you the English translation. So as you can see, in English, you often express it with can or cannot. Even though like we're implying allowed, not allowed, prohibited. So for example, I can say, I can eat nuts, meaning I do not have an allergy. There is nothing that prohibits me or stops me from eating nuts. And it's kind of a regulation of some kind. Like if I have an allergy, there is a regulation that I shouldn't be eating nuts. The next one, my son can't drink milk. And yes, of course, I can say my son is lactose intolerant and cannot drink milk as an example. But in English, sometimes we just express it with can or cannot, like he can't, like. But in Russian, we use these words можно and нельзя, which are actually adverbs, and they're not verbs, and they're expressing is allowed, is not allowed, whether it's allowed or not allowed by another person, by law, or by some kind of a regulation. So, мне можно есть орехи. Like, there is nothing that prohibits me from eating nuts. Моему сыну нельзя пить молоко. If a Russian hears it, they know, oh, there must be some allergic reaction to milk or, you know, lactose intolerance. Like, they cannot, because there is some explanation to it. Okay. So, мне можно, мне нельзя. Allowed, not allowed, can, cannot, in the context of having some kind of a permission or not having some kind of a permission. Then the next one we've worked with before, it's the indirect object. Remember when we are doing the action and someone is the recipient of this action or maybe even benefiting from it. And again, English sentences, I'm reading a book to my son. So I'm reading the book. The book is experiencing direct action, so it's going to be accusative. But my son is the recipient of this action. Or as I say, he can run away from me. Like, the book cannot, I'm holding it and reading it, it's being read. But my son can be like on his TikTok or in La La Land. So that's the indirect object of my action. I'm calling my mom, and here calling as like calling on the phone. So I'm giving a call to my mom. And I want to say like directly calling my mom, like, Mom, that would be actually accusative because mom is being called. But here, when we're talking on the phone, what's being called is like the number, or like the connection is being made to mom. And the last one, my mom gives me money. And remember how I said dative or дательный падеж goes back to the word dать, to give. Whoever we give something to is the indirect object of our action. What we give is direct, that's accusative. Okay, now let's take a look at the Russian examples. Я читаю сыну книгу. Я звоню моей маме. Мама дает мне деньги. So as you can see here, everything that's in bold in both languages is dative. Now, remember how I said when we work with the basic cases that sometimes, especially when you are beginners, it's easier to remember specific verbs if it's too hard for you to kind of wrap your mind around the concept of the indirect object. So here I would say just look at these verbs that I have here. So I have verbs that need a recipient of the action. And I'm going to read them. As you can see, they do not have English translations. I'll give them to you. This is the way for you to feel like you're accomplishing something when you're watching my videos. Hopefully, either way, you feel like you're accomplishing something when you're watching my videos. But I will, it's just like, I thought about adding the English translations to the chart, but in class, I just tell my students, and here it was getting like too much on the page. It already has a lot. Okay, I stopped talking. Let's start working. So each verb is presented in two forms. And again, I'm not going into verb forms in this playlist, but I want to remind you that for every English verbs, you have at least two forms in Russian. Most of the time you have two forms. Imperfective, that we use for like general facts or actions in process, and perfective, which is like completed action either in the past or in the future. But they are translated the same way into English. We just use them in different contexts. Okay, so let's take a look. So here we have давать, дать, which means to give. And whoever we give something to is dative. Next one is верить, поверить, to believe. Whoever we believe or don't believe is gonna be dative. Звонить, позвонить, to call on the phone. Whoever we give a call to is going to be dative. Обещать, пообещать, to promise something to. Whoever we promise something to is dative. Рассказывать, рассказать, to kind of like tell a story, to tell not necessarily like a creative story, but to tell something that has some kind of a narrative. Like I told my parents how my day went. Я рассказала моим родителям, как прошел мой день. So here we have whoever we tell something to is dative. Next one is говорить, сказать, which is to say. And again, whoever we say something to is dative. So here we have помогать, помочь. Whoever we help is dative because we give help to this person. Показывать, показать, to show. And again, whoever we show something to, dative. Посылать, послать, to send, like send a package or send an email. Whoever we send something to, dative. Отвечать, ответить, to respond, to give a response to somebody. Whoever we respond to, dative. Писать, написать, what we're writing, like we're writing a book, that's accusative. But who we're writing to, like I'm writing a letter to my parents, that's going to be dative. And finally, покупать, купить, to buy something, whoever we buy something for is going to be dative. There is more. I have another page. So here we have дарить, подарить, to give a present to somebody, whoever we give a present to, dative. Советовать, посоветовать, to give advice, whoever we give advice to, dative. And the last two, разрешать, разрешить, to allow, whoever we allow or don't allow something is going to be dative. Finally, предлагать, предложить, to offer. Whoever we offer something to, dative. So as you can see, we have these verbs, and it's good to kind of like little by little be learning, just like I was presenting it to you, like whoever we promise something to, dative. Whoever we respond to, dative, and so on. Okay, then next context is expressions about feelings, sensations, and wishes. We look at it differently, just like with age and with many other things. We use it as dative, like it's being felt to me. I'm the recipient, the indirect recipient of being cold or hot and so on. So here we use dative. So let's take a look. Here we have мне холодно, I'm cold. Мне жарко, I'm hot. Мне тепло, like I'm warm, I'm feeling warm. Мне удобно means I am comfortable. Like мне здесь удобно. It's comfortable for me here. Мне стыдно or не стыдно. I'm ashamed or not ashamed about something. Мне интересно. This expression is more like, I'm wondering. Интересно. Мне интересно. Ему было интересно. He was wondering about something. Okay, and here are some more expressions. So, Мне кажется literally means it seems to me. But we really use it as just like a synonyms to я думаю, like I think. Мне кажется, это хорошая юбка. Oh, I think it's a nice skirt. It's not like it seems to me it's a nice skirt. It's just like, yeah, I think it's good. Мне хочется is similar to я хочу, which is I want, but softer. It's kind of like I feel like doing something. So it's not necessarily a plan to do something when we say like я хочу сделать это, I want to do that. It sounds more like a more certain plan. While мне хочется is like, мне так сейчас хочется мороженого. I so want some ice cream right now. Whether I will get it or not, doesn't matter. But it just like feels like I want some ice cream right now. Then the next one is легко. And please pay attention to pronunciation where G is pronounced as H. Легко. Легко. Мне легко. Or нелегко, not easy. Oh, I'm sorry. Легко means easy, like when something is easy to do. And нелегко or трудно when something is difficult to do. For example, мне легко учить иностранные языки. It's easy for me to learn foreign languages. I don't know, I just love doing it. Haven't done it in a while, but when I was young, мне было легко учить иностранные языки. And the final one is мне скучно. It's summer, and I hear it from my kids all the time. Mama, мне скучно. I'm bored. Мне скучно. So in English, again, we say I am bored. And in Russian, we say it's boring to me. Like whatever's happening around me feels boring to me. So we use, dative. And here I have мне, but of course, any other dative form will work. Ему, нам, моему другу, моему профессору, and so on. Okay, and finally, we're getting to the last kind of like context, but it's going to be a big one because we're working with the prepositions again. And you noticed as soon as we moved from nominative to genitive in the last video, we already started working with a lot of prepositions. And again, don't feel overwhelmed. Just remember there are some prepositions that go with specific cases. And there are some prepositions that go with multiple cases with different contexts. We saw it with the preposition s. It goes with instrumental when we mean like in the company of, like together with. But it also means from a starting point in time, like from Monday, с понедельника, or coming back from an event. Я иду домой с работы. I'm coming home from work. The good thing about dative is there's only 3 prepositions for us to remember, and all of them only work with dative. Like, you know this preposition, you know that it works with dative, and the prepositions are к, по, and благодаря. Okay, let's go over them one by one. So you already know the preposition k from before, because we looked at it in the basic kind of like 3 contexts for dative, and I went into a lot of detail explaining that it's going to a person's place. So whenever we're going to a person's place, we use k plus dative, or a place of work. So, but remember I also said it also means kind of like just toward, like where you come up to, you know, a person or a landmark, and that's it. You just don't enter, and so on. Then the third one, we have it here, is when something fits or goes together. Now, there are different, there are some other contexts that explain that and go with other cases, but I'll show you the examples, and I think you will see what I mean when something fits or goes together when we talk about food or clothes. Okay, first let's take a look at to or towards a person. So here we have, I'm going to my brother's place, or he approached, kind of like he came up to arena. So that's our к as to someplace or towards. Я иду в гости к моему брату. Он подошел к Ирине. And подошел, making a mess here, подошел is like he was here, and then he came up close. Let's say, я подошла к столу. I came up to the table, and he came up to Irina. So like that motion. So then towards the landmark, I'm going toward the library. We're walking toward the city center. So that would be я иду к библиотеке. So if I'm saying я иду в библиотеку, I'm telling you I'm going inside the library when I reach it. But к библиотеке, I might not enter, just toward, just in the direction of the library. Similarly, мы идем к центру города. We're walking toward the city center. It's there, and we're just walking towards it. And that's all I want you to know for now when I'm saying this sentence. So then when something goes together, look at the examples that I have here. Red wine should be served with meat. This key is to my apartment. So as you can see, we have red wine goes with meat. So it kind of like approaches the meat real well. And key fits my apartment lock. It's like goes well with it. And that's what's expressed with the к. So к мясу нужно подавать красное вино, which literally means to meat, one needs to serve red wine. One needs to serve, we should serve red wine with meat, or red wine should be served with meat. And это ключ к моей квартире. This is the key to my apartment that fits my apartment lock. Okay, so our next preposition is the preposition по. And it also has several applications. One is motion within some area without any particular direction. And if you already worked with the verbs of motion, you remember how important it is to know if we're going in a specific direction, or we're going back and forth, or with no direction. So with the no direction, with the verbs of motion, we would be using the preposition по plus dative. This preposition is also used whenever we say every with time of the day or with days of the week. And that's it. So we cannot say like every year using по. We actually can in some contexts, but I'm not going to go into that. Like every leap year, something happens. We are focusing on the most basic context of time of the day, like morning, night, evening, and days of the week, like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and so on. And when we use the по, we just put that word into plural dative. And I'll show you an example. So the next context is academic subject as a definition for something. We saw it before with genitive, where we had one noun define another noun. Here it's very similar, but it's mostly used for academic subject. So for academic subjects, genitive construction or po plus dative construction will be synonymous. And finally, using something as a medium of broadcasting or transmitting some information. So kind of like via something. Okay, now let's unpack it step by step. So here are examples of walking around without no specific direction. For example, we love walking around the streets. We love walking around the city. The children are running on the beach. So in Russian it would be «Мы любим гулять по улицам», «Мы любим гулять по городу». Here, there's no specific direction. We can go here, we can go there, we can go over there. And that's по plus dative. Дети бегают по пляжу. Kids are running around on the beach. They ran here, and then to the water, and then here, and and so on. So there is no specific direction. So that's why, again, we're using по plus dative. Then with time of the day or days of the week. So here are examples. In the mornings or in the morning, I have breakfast, meaning every morning I have breakfast. On Mondays, meaning every Monday I don't have classes. So here are the Russian sentences. По утрам я завтракаю. По понедельникам у меня нет уроков. So again, you would use the time of the day and the day of the week in plural dative after по to have this idea was like every. So then academic subject. So here we have a Russian language lesson and a physics textbook. And again, we saw how we can do it with genitive. Now let's take a look how we can do it with dative. Урок по русскому языку. Учебник по физике. And again, physics in Russian is a word in singular, физика. And finally, using something as a medium to broadcast something, send some information. So here we have to talk on the phone, to talk on Skype. Skype doesn't exist anymore. To watch a movie on TV, to watch a movie online, like on the internet, to send a letter via mail, via electronic mail, via email. So all of these will give us the context for dative. So говорить по телефону, говорить по скайпу, смотреть фильм по телевизору, смотреть фильм по интернету. Now, via internet, we can also say в интернете or на Netflix. There are different ways to express it, but one of them is по plus dative, по интернету. A little bit old-fashioned, I would say. It sounds a little bit old-fashioned. Посылать письмо по почте. So once again, send a letter via mail or по электронной почте, via email. And finally, our final preposition is благодаря. Благодаря. Now in Russian, there is a word благодарю, благодарю, which is a fancy thank you, благодарю. But благодаря means thanks to. So again, let's take a look at the example. So whoever something happens thanks to, whoever is going to be dative. Thanks to my mom, I know how to read. Thanks to your help, I passed the exam. It's all thanks to you. So let's take a look at Russian. Благодаря моей маме я умею читать. Благодаря твоей помощи я сдал экзамен. Это все благодаря вам. So here you can see that actually, also I want to point out that in English you have to have a comma in expressions like thanks to my mom, but in Russian you don't. Russian and English punctuation rules are a little bit different, and you do not need to worry about it as beginners, but as you progress, kind of like pay attention to these little things. Okay, we are done with dative, and your task is again, 2 tasks. The first one is work ahead and look at the context for accusative before the next video. And then the second task is put a sentence in English, or maybe even already in Russian, into the comments and put the word in dative in bold. And if you are translating your sentences into Russian, remember to use my charts to come up with the correct ending. So I also can give you some suggestions if you run into any problems. Okay, keep learning Russian. Пока-пока.
If you like it, please click like.